Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Wednesday, September the 24th, 2025, which makes this the news and events for Tuesday, September 23rd, day 1308 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, coming to you live at 5 from Sophia, Bulgaria. I've never been in Bulgaria before. It's very exciting. It's very interesting. I'll tell you, landing here today, it felt like landing in Phoenix, Arizona. That's what this reminds me of. It is hot. It is dry. There are mountains. And the city is set in a valley. Very reminiscent of Phoenix, Arizona. Or maybe Cheyenne, Wyoming in the summer. I see the peeps are coming in. Hey, Pingu. Hey, Derek Sands. Hey, Raven. Hey, Arna. We are live, brother. Arn, you would be proud of me, pal, because you know how exhausted I was you, of all people, know how exhausted I was last night. By the time I got to Warsaw, got through the live, etc., 17 hours on the bus, yada, yada, yada. And then 3 hours of sleep last night, the flight here, and I still got in 5 kilometers today, right? We were busy today, but I got the venue is like a little over a kilometer away, and then there was a lot of other walking in addition to that. So getting the steps in. Hey, G2. Hey, Nicola Jones. Hey, Bernard. I'm plugging along, pal. Hey, Jackie. Hey, Akron. Hey, Gary, how's everybody doing tonight? There's Feisty. Hey, Feisty. Nice to see you guys. While people are coming in, yep, we'll talk about Norway and Denmark a little bit. We got 2 Norwegians here, at least, right? Lars is always here. I assume Lars is here. Maybe he's not in yet. And Arna is here. Any feedback from our Norwegian friends about this possible Russian drone incursion into the Nordic states today? Hey, the kid. Hey, Eli. Hey, Alice. How's everybody doing today? Avi, I just said that. Hey, Maddie Wright. All right, guys, let me tell you a story. Can I tell you a story? Oh, God. I think some of you, hey, Colin. Well, we don't know, Arn, right, if the 2 events are connected. Are they saying that for sure in the Norwegian press? That this was all just these Singaporean tourists? That they weren't 2 separate incidents? Because, so if you haven't seen, right now, my understanding was we didn't have confirmation that the 2 reports were actually about the same events. In Norway, that's definitely the case. Okay, so I haven't seen that yet, but what Arn is saying is that the drones that we saw flying in Norway today, now Norway, of course, was not the only place that we saw drones flying. Denmark, there was suspicious drone activity as well. So what Arn is saying is that the drones were exclusively the province of some Singaporean tourists who were flying drones near a military base. Now, Marius is saying it's 2 separate events. So the reporting on this is not clear. I certainly cannot say for sure what's going on. there could certainly be an element of paranoia to all of this, right? We've seen these Russian drone incursions into Poland, Romania, Lithuania, Estonia, and everybody's on heightened alert, right? Nerves are getting frayed. This is how wars start. People make mistakes. They misinterpret what they are seeing. And I don't want to contribute to that. So let's say that right now it's unclear. But we do know that in Norway, some tourists were arrested for flying drones where they shouldn't. In Denmark, the Danish prime minister said the words, "We cannot rule out Russia," and called it a severe attack. Now, everybody in NATO is saying that the Polish incursion was a provocation, not an attack. And so these are words that will reverberate through NATO and may move the needle in our understanding somewhat. That, I think, remains to be seen. But it's certainly something that we want to look out for. I forgot to mention the sponsor of tonight's live is Michael Nally. If you see Michael around, please thank him. I didn't see him come in. Hey, Roy Daniels. Last night it was our friend Avi, and then tonight it's Michael Nally. So, right now, see, Elizabeth, I thought that was the case as well, right? Elizabeth is saying there were also drones above the airport Gardermoen in Norway, which was a separate incident from the Singaporeans. So, Arna, there may be more going on there than we think, or that we yet have the data to support, right? I was very interested in the Danish Prime Minister's comments. So many people in NATO went to such great lengths to not call the Polish incursion an attack. And, you know, I even said, I thought it was an attack. It seemed like a fucking attack to me. And then, of course, General Philip Breedlove gave his analysis, and I was convinced that he was right, that it was a provocation, not an attack. The drones were not armed. It was clearly Russia pushing buttons. But one cannot say the same thing about the jets in Estonia. Those jets, according to all official sources, were loaded with ballistic missiles. They were ready to do real damage should they have chosen to do that. And that cannot be allowed. And then we see another incursion with a Russian spy plane over the Baltic Sea. Now, legitimately in international airspace, right? But with its transponder off, so that you don't know what it is. I understand that another Russian jet violated German airspace today, but I don't have the details on that. I agree, Akron. It is time to start shooting these things out of the sky. And we heard from NATO today that that's what's going to happen, right? Now, that remains to be seen. So keep your fingers crossed, right? That Russia gets the response that this provocation, these egregious, reckless provocations really do demand. If you want to keep these guys in their own lane, they're going to need to suffer some consequences. Because right now they think that they can do whatever they want, right? They think that they can do whatever they want, and they are doing it. In last night's overnight missile and drone attacks, we saw the Ukrainians intercept 103 out of 112 incoming drones. That's a 93% interception rate on the drones. Great shooting from the guys. But we also saw 3 Iskander missiles come in. 3 Iskander M ballistic missiles. Wow. Could not get the word ballistic out of my head. And those hits were reported mostly in the east, although Odessa was hit badly last night as well, again. The NAC, the North Atlantic Council, on the subject of NATO showing its power, right, made some strong statements today. Now, again, Operation Eastern Sentry is supposed to have been in effect for 10 days now. And yet we have seen repeated drone and manned aircraft incursions in NATO airspace. Mo boy. Oh, you just, is that you, Maddie? Did you do that? Or Feisty? Somebody wanted to know if we had Russian sources. Why the fuck would anybody use a Russian source? These bastards lie and lie and lie, and they get shown over and over and over again to have lied. Why the fuck would anybody trust a Russian source? Thank you, Feisty. Everybody applaud Feisty. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Van. Nice to see you, pal. Poof. You know, if only we could do that in real life. If somehow the lying liars and the lies they tell would just weave a cloak of invisibility around them so that none of the rest of us had to put up with their bullshit, life would be better for all of us. That's for fucking sure. And Lavrov. How about goddamn, I think it was ABC. Forgive me, I'm not sure if it was ABC or NBC. Had Lavrov on and were kissing his ass like he was Donald fucking Trump. Thanking him so much for his time. Thank you so much, Mr. Lavrov, for coming on our program and lying bold-faced to the American people with Russian disinformation. It makes you sick. It makes me sick. Somebody asked about, did I see Donald Trump's speech at the UN? I did not. And I'm not going to talk about Donald Trump and his comments today because they are irrelevant. Nothing he says is ever going to be helpful. Talk about your lying liars and the lies they tell. How do you know if Donald Trump is lying? His fucking lips are moving. That's how we know. So it's worthless. It's pointless to quote Donald Trump or talk about him. He is a creature of the Kremlin. He has subverted the U.S. federal system of government. He is a traitor, a 34 times convicted felon, a convicted SA assailant. He is not worth, right? He's 300 pounds of dog shit and fake tan in a cheap suit with a tie that's compensating for his tiny little toed dick. That's what he is. And how these people are all so enthralled by him, I will never understand. I will never understand. All right, so following these multiple incursions, the NAC, the North Atlantic Council, which is the one that decides whether or not you're going to invoke Article 5, met under the terms and conditions of consultation of Article 4 for only the 9th time in NATO's history, 2 of those times having been in the last 2 weeks. Things are heating up, boy. Things are heating up. And as we said, they came out with some very strong language about shooting down these drones. I have not had any confirmation of any other flamingos being used in... So, okay, on the subject of the flamingos, right? There's a report on YouTube from a source that is generally legitimate. And boy, the information they claim to have about the use of flamingos against hardened ammo dumps in Feodosia, Crimea, is extraordinary. The only problem is they don't cite their sources, and I can't find anybody else that says it happened. And that's why you haven't heard about it from me, right? There's no corroboration on that story. Now, last night, we saw about 180 Ukrainian drones go into Russia. And the governors of at least 6 oblasts said that all drones were shot down. But some debris did land on certain places. The debris story again, from one Russian governor after another. An airport in the Moscow region has been closed since this attack last night. But the mayor of Moscow is saying that it will reopen soon. The most interesting comment that I thought we got out of last night's drone attacks on Russia was from the governor of Belgorod, who encouraged people to keep their children home. I mean, I don't even know what that means. Like what, you're not going to send them to school? The schools are closing? That's very unclear. But what was far more interesting and also less clear was his statement that 2 shopping centers have been temporarily closed. 2 shopping centers have been temporarily closed with no explanation. Were they hit by drones? Were there fires on the territory of the shopping centers? We don't know. But apparently they're just closed. And when they're going to reopen, nobody knows. Now that's very curious. It really, when I read it, it hit my ear. Now, on the subject of closures, and we've talked about this before, but Reuters had a piece today that claimed that 40% of small filling stations, gas stations, right, are closing. 40%. Because they have no gas. They're gas stations with no gas. Like Russia is a gas station with nukes cosplaying as a country. So the situation in Russia is deteriorating fast. On this subject, we saw the 14th Unmanned Systems Forces hit 2 linear production dispatch pipelines, or pumping stations. They had pumping stations, right? The pumping stations that pump the oil through the Iron Horse, which is the network of pipelines that get the crude oil from the Siberian fields to the refineries and the refined oil products out to the world, as well as the crude oil out to the world. And 2 of them were hit last night. I'm not sure where the first one was. It was close to the temporarily occupied territories, like in Voronezh or Bryansk, if I'm not mistaken. But the other one was 1,000 kilometers away in Samara. And according to the GUR, who carried out these attacks, these were successful strikes, and they are going to have a direct impact on Russia's ability to deliver crude oil to the world and refined oil products, both to internal customers and to the world. So we'll be looking for more on that. We talk a lot in here about partisan activity inside the temporarily occupied territories, right? Over the last few weeks, partisans, there have been a couple of stories that we've talked about railroad cabinets, logistics being hit, as well as a hit on a resort community. Now dig it. What is emerging is a pattern of Ukrainian partisans in the temporarily occupied territories using car bombs, arson, and explosives to wreak havoc on the Russian rear. And in fact, if we look at the strikes just in because of course they've been doing a lot of this in Crimea, but if we look at the strikes in Zaporizhia over the last 2 weeks, what we saw was a partisan attack, a decapitation strike that eliminated 4 colonels, 6 majors, 4 captains, and 3 lieutenants in one shot. Basically, a decapitation strike of the entire command and control of the Zaporizhia military district. We saw car bombs take out at least 5 Kadyrurites, the Chechen fighters. And in Melitopol, we saw the Russian Marines ambushed. They were at an ammo dump to resupply themselves. And the ammo dump and the drone facility, the drone assembly facility there, were all blown up, and at least 6 of the Marines were dispatched. Ukraine is systematically decapitating command and control. They are systematically purging Russian logistics, leaving the frontline guys without a resupply method, without what they need to prosecute this war. This is an ongoing battle, and Ukraine is winning. Make no mistake. Now, I don't want to suggest to anybody that it is easy. The Russians are doing the exact same thing to the Ukrainians, and it's hurting them as well. I was just having a discussion about this with my buddy Dragon. Everybody here knows Dragon. Dragon showed up the other night on the live out of nowhere. That was funny. And he was talking about how the Ukrainians are having this exact same problem. So it is, though I absolutely believe in Ukrainian victory, though I absolutely believe in the superiority of both the Ukrainian methodology and its execution, it is important for us to remember, even as we find joy in their victories, the hardships that these guys are suffering. And it is incumbent upon all of us to do whatever we can to ease that suffering, whether it be through focused petitions to our own legislators and elected representatives, or whether it's through direct intervention, the way that Tony Takiri drives supplies to the front line, the way that the Jeeps for Peace guys and our buddy David Frazier bring cars to the front line, the way right? Whatever it is, whatever you can do, because there's something we can all do. And I encourage you to find that thing that you can do. Now, on the subject of the resort area in Crimea being targeted, the Institute for the Study of War, the U.S. think tank, said, quoted today Sergei Aksionov, who is the commander of regional forces in Crimea. He said that the Ukrainian armed forces had hit a resort, which we talked about last week, but it was during a party. This was new information. And that at this party, high-ranking officials and generals were present. He did not comment on whether or not there had been any casualties. So we don't know who was there. We don't know if anybody was unalived. However, it could well be that Ukraine, just like the partisans in Zaporizhia, are targeting the leadership. It could be that Ukraine was attempting another decapitation strike against the Southern Military District Command and Control by targeting this social event at a local sanatorium or a local resort. All right, the last thing that I have here is that the first U.S. AWACS have flown over NATO territory as part of the NATO Eastern Flank. So NATO AWACS, right, those early warning and detection air control towers in the sky, are participating in Operation Eastern Sentry and clearing the skies, NATO and EU airspace, of drone and hopefully manned aircraft threats as they present themselves. So guys, that's the top line news stuff for me today. Again, I want to thank Michael Nally, who's the sponsor of tonight's live. I want to thank Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and of course the moderators, Jay, Travis, Pete, Maddie, and Feisty, the best moderator teams on the Tickety Talk. Thank you all. Questions, comments, Trump's supposed U-turn. It's a lot of nonsense, Nightshade. I've come to understand the Russia-Ukraine issue perfectly now. Perfectly. Bullshit. Bullshit. Trump doesn't understand anything. He is a creature driven solely by his own insatiable appetites. He will always want more. He will always want to give you less. He is not a thing to listen to. It was too many words. Too many words. It's like Franz Joseph said, too many notes. The human ear can only hear so many words in a night. I have the perfect words, the best words. You'll love my words. Don't listen to anybody else's. It'll be too much. I did not read his tweet on X. I'm really trying awfully hard not to pay attention to the orange shit stain on America's shorts. Is he up to 654 wars now that he stopped? Probably. It's probably about that. In his mind, I'm sure that's true. He'll flip again tomorrow. He'll have one call with Putin, and that'll be the end of it. It's either incoherent or words that he was given. I don't think he does very well with being given words, do you? So, I mean, Should I read it? I should read it. Okay. He complained he is not getting a Nobel. Of course, because it's all about him. Forget about the fact that the eastern 20% of Ukraine is in rubble. Forget about the fact that you've got 4 million Ukrainians trapped inside the temporarily occupied territories, subject to the gentle mercies and whims of the most sadistic, nightmarish army currently prosecuting a war of genocide and terror against a much smaller, less armed neighbor. Forget about all of that. I didn't get my prize. Give me a break. Albania and Azerbaijan are surely glad he stopped that war. Right, McMahon? I'm surprised he didn't say Atlanta and Azerbaijan. Next, it's going to be big war down on Peachtree Street, Atlanta and Azerbaijan, and I stopped it, sending the National Guard to an American city. He flips more than pancakes at IHOP. No, he didn't do 2 weeks today. I did see that. He said he'd know in a month whether or not Putin is serious. He'll know in a month. Can you imagine being so intellectually dull, so morally bankrupt, so naive, yet full of hate and racism, that you would believe anything Donald Trump says? Who are these people? Where do they come from? Is Ukraine trying to move further in Tetkino? My understanding is that they are moving. Slowly, but they are moving. Cargo jets in Moscow are flying low over residential neighborhoods to avoid drones. He called Russia a paper tiger. Well, gosh, isn't that a revelation? Okay, so Raven has an interesting question here, and this is worth talking about a little bit. The question is, Peter, should the Ukrainians hit the oil fields in Siberia? Raven, it's my opinion they don't need to. And we're already seeing it, right? Who was it? It wasn't Peskov. It was Transneft. It was the new CEO of Transneft. Remember the last one? The last one fell out of a window. It was the 10th or 11th floor, I want to say, of his apartment building. There was a note. But I thought it was really interesting because he didn't live on the 10th or 11th floor. He lived on 6. So why he jumped out of a 10th floor window is very confusing to me. Very, very confusing to me. Anyway. So we just saw, hang on, I should point out, since people want Russian sources, that the Russians completely denied this story. However, Reuters reported, after having spoken to 6 oil executives inside Russia, that Transneft had warned them that they may need to shut down some wells. They might need to cut production. Why might they need to cut production? They might need to cut production because they got nowhere to put the shit. They don't have any strategic reserves. They don't have any big caves in the ground they can pump it into like we do in the United States. They don't have these things that you need for storage. And because they don't have it, they have no choice but to start shutting down wells. And it looks like that's what's coming next. So I don't know that the Ukrainians need to try to go all the way to Siberia. All they need to do is keep doing what they're doing, and eventually the Russians themselves will have to close off those oil wells in Siberia for want of a place to put it, which is amazing, I think. Hey, Pug Mahone. Hey, TKS Dad. Does Uncle Lukashenko, Uncle Luka, live on the second floor? That could be. Hey, CyberDoc. That is the question, M-Pole. Who did live on the 10th floor of that building? And that is not a question I have been able to answer, I'm sorry to say. It's very unclear. Very, very unclear. Oh, it wasn't Luca. He lives on the second floor. Got it. That's funny. It's funny, Nightshade. Hey, Clay Fry. Wells that stop production cease. That's the thing. It's not like turning off the tap. You stop pulling the oil out of the ground, you got to fill that pipe with concrete. You got to shut it down long term. Then you're going to have to re-drill another one when you're ready at a cost of, in the U.S., I think it's something like $2.1 million per well. But that's probably an old figure. It's probably higher now. I'm not sure. But it's a lot of money. A guy named 100 extra feet? I don't know what that means. All the top Russians are living in bungalows? I don't know what that means. Hi, Gypsy. Hey, Bernard. I read that also. That's interesting. Laddie, we don't know who lived on the 10th floor. I have tried to find out, but I haven't been successful. I'm not finding it in the reporting. Yeah, sure, it's frustrating, that you're missing out on oil at the cheap Russian price. But we got to stop this shit. We got to stop it, man. It's going to kill us all. No upper stories on a bungalow. Yeah, you're right about that. Nobody knows where Putin's doubles are living, or at least I don't. Tea service. You guys are talking about tea service. Let's see. Okay. Guys, I do have to apologize for anybody who looks for the live on YouTube. I don't have a laptop that I can travel with, and I can't download the YouTube lives in order to upload them to YouTube without the laptop. So the lives for this week are not going to be posted to YouTube, at least not until after I get back. So we'll just have to see. All right. Guys, listen, I had 11 o'clock on Sunday night. I left Kyiv after a full day for a 17-hour bus trip to Warsaw, as you all know. Last night I got 3.5 hours of sleep before the flight here. And I'm really, really on my last legs. So I'm going to call it a night a little bit early. I'll make it up to you, Mike Nally, somehow. Or maybe you'll generously forgive me. But again, let me thank Michael Nally, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Let me please thank Lars, who has the Discord. I say this every night. Oh, God. Lars, who has the Discord service. Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. If you're interested in Trump's comments, Nightshade did some pieces on them today. Give Nightshade a follow. And thank you to the moderator team, the best moderators on the Tickety Talk. Thank you, everybody. And wish me luck tomorrow. We had a meet and greet tonight, some tapas and some drinks. I was afraid to have a drink tonight because I knew I would not make it to this if I did. So there's another sacrifice I've made for all of us here. But we had some tapas tonight. And then we attended the taping of a live comedy special by an American who lives here in Bulgaria. And that was pretty good. He's got lots of good internal callbacks and some wonderful wordplay. So if I get any information about where that's being released, I'll certainly pass it on. Thanks, Avi. I'm looking forward to it. The venue is 1.1 kilometers away. So that guarantees me 2.2 kilometers of walking every day. And that's what I'm going to do. Nightshade, can you give everybody your official handle so that they can follow you? Nightshade 666. There you go. Ansley, I don't know what 67 means. 1967, that was the year I was born. What else happened that year? 67. 67, I'm not sure. It's the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. Is that true, David? 6-7 meme. What's a 6-7 meme? Born there to Mustang Led Zeppelin. I must be losing it because that didn't make any sense to me at all. And I'm a big fan of the Zepp. Or I used to be, when I was a kid. Akron 67. It's the year I was born. It's a good year. A good year for fine wine and fine men. What about the Rapture? Oh, geez, Arn. These guys, if you look on Wikipedia, right, there is a great page of all the times religious nut jobs have said the world is ending and Jesus is coming back. And in the 2,000 years since, there probably was a carpenter from Nazareth who had a way with words. In the 2,000 years since then, I think it's 246 predictions. 246 the rapture is a brand new idea in Christianity, right? It was bullshit made up by Americans, evangelicals in the 1880s. It has no biblical basis whatsoever. It's just a lot of nonsense. I used to love talk. Before the Jehovah's Witnesses got into the whole rapture nonsense, they believed that only they were the chosen souls going to heaven. And they knew how many of them there were. There were 2 million. Okay? And so if you were a Jehovah's Witness, you were going to heaven when you died, and you were one of the 2 million names written in the book of life. then Jehovah's Witnesses became more than 2 million people. And imagine your surprise, just as that was about to happen, the divine preacher, minister, Godhead, whatever he calls himself, of that church, had a stunning revelation that in fact no Jehovah's Witness was going to heaven. What was it? I'm sorry, not 2 million. It was 444,000, right? 1,000 gross, 444,000 mentioned in the book of Revelation. Well, then when the Jehovah's Witnesses grew to be 2 million, what's the point of being a Jehovah's Witness if they can't even get 144? Oh God, I can't do math. The 144,000, 1,000 gross, right? So anyway, they had this stunning revelation that Jehovah's Witnesses weren't going to go to heaven. They were going to have a perfect life here on earth while they watched the rest of us all burn as cordwood for the devil. I used to love when the Jehovah's Witnesses came knocking on the door, boy. I used to love it. I used to have a lot of fun with them. Back in the day, before they raised the limit, I remember telling one Jehovah's Witness, going through that math with one Jehovah's Witness and telling him, pal, I need a religion with better odds. I mean, at the very least, if you're going to believe a bunch of bullshit, the very least you should believe is that it's going to help you out. You had them knock 3 days ago, did you? The last time a Jehovah's Witness came to my door in Pennsylvania, they were there for 3.5 hours. And by the time that they were gone, I must have had a dozen different scriptures down off the walls. You're on the imagine my surprise, CyberDoc. You drowned of pneumonia before you were 2. Ooh. Yeah, Dave, I don't blame you one bit. I mean, that's the sane, reasonable thing to do. The only thing is, man, it does my heart a world of good when after one of these encounters, a week later, a month later, a year later, whatever, I walk into some unsavory pool hall and find a former Jehovah's Witness there playing pool and drinking beer and talking to girls. It really does my heart a lot of good, I got to tell you. Anyway, they save souls, I save souls. That's what I think. Okay. Again, big thanks to Michael Nally, a sponsor of tonight's live, Lars with the Discord server, Nightshade with the Peters Peeps group, and the best moderators on the Tickety Talk. And I'm going to call it a night. I'm just rambling pointlessly. All right. Good night, everybody. Take care. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Ben Tilley.